My name is Shelley. I am 31 years old, and I work remotely, sitting at a table in my parents' house. Every morning I wake up to the soft rustle of leaves outside the window and the sounds coming from the kitchen, when my mother is preparing breakfast. Here, within these walls, I feel both cozy and lonely. My life is divided into calm, almost monotonous everyday life and rare, but intense meetings with my family, who are always nearby, and yet sometimes seem far away. My brother's name is Oliver, and a little over a year ago he married January. Yana is a woman whose beauty is undeniable, whose confidence is always present in her every move and word. At first, I thought their marriage would be as strong as they were, two strong personalities complementing each other. However, recently, Yana began to visit our house more often, coming without Oliver, and I began to notice changes in her behavior. She comes with ease, as if our parents' house is also her home. There is not a hint of the awkwardness that might arise during the first visit or even after several. It's like she's dissolving into these walls, becoming a part of our family hearth. At first, I thought she was just getting used to her new role, because being a brother's wife is also a kind of duty, a responsibility to the family. But the more often Yana came, the more I caught myself thinking that something was wrong. Although she always smiled and acted at ease, something in her look and words seemed strange to me. I've always felt a certain nervousness around her. Her demeanor, her appearance, it all seemed to remind me that I was standing one step behind. She was the perfection that I always lacked, especially in those moments when she unexpectedly approached me with friendly concern. "Shelley, you don't have a boyfriend, do you?" "What is it?" she asked one day when we were sitting on the veranda, enjoying the warm rays of the sun. This question sounded so direct that I was momentarily lost. "Why don't you have a partner?" she continued, not giving me a chance to answer. I felt myself blushing. I'm not used to such direct questions, especially from Yana. "I don't know," I muttered, not knowing what to say. Of course, the reason was simple. I worked from home, immersed in my projects, and rarely found time for anything else, let alone dating. I explained this to Yana, noting that my job leaves me no space to meet men. She nodded thoughtfully, as if assessing my words, and then added, "This is a big problem, of course. But if someone suitable suddenly appears, you have to be ready. Do you want me to give you some makeup and fashion tips? It can help enhance your charm." I froze. On the one hand, her concern seemed sincere, almost sisterly, but on the other hand, her words were filled with the same hidden confidence that always made me feel uncomfortable around her. Yana was a woman who did everything well. How could I, living in the shadow of her perfection, be compared? I thanked her for the offer, trying not to show my embarrassment. She nodded with a smile, and we returned to talking about simple things. But the thought of her words wouldn't let me go. "Shelley, you need to start with the basics," she said casually, but those words hit me harder than I expected. I am rather unassuming about my style during remote work. My bangs, which sometimes prevents me from concentrating, are usually pulled back with a bandana, and it has become a kind of routine. I rarely wear makeup, because in the conditions of the house where I spend most of my time, this is not necessary. The only thing I don't forget to do is moisturize my skin. It's a ritual that calms me down and reminds me to take care of myself, even if I hardly go outside. My home clothes are purely a matter of convenience. Soft fabrics, loose silhouettes, no intricacy, just comfort. Of course, it is unthinkable for me to go out in public somewhere like this. And this is probably where Yana's misunderstanding arises. After all, she sees me only in these cozy, but, I admit, far from presentable outfits. However, it's worth noting that when I go outside or to important events, I always attach importance to it. To remember at least Oliver's wedding, at that event, I tried to look flawless, with perfectly matched makeup and elegant clothes. However, it seems that Yana completely forgot about it. Instead of remembering my image at those family events, she seemed to fixate on how I looked at home. That's why her words about makeup and style made me somewhat doubt that she saw me in full. One day, when Yana was visiting us, she suddenly exclaimed, "Shelley, let's start with your wardrobe," and without any hesitation went straight to my room. I froze for a moment, debating whether to stop her, but eventually decided to just watch. I knew there was no malice in her actions. Moreover, they showed genuine concern. Yana began to carefully inspect my closet, as if conducting an inspection, pulling out each item and commenting on it. My wardrobe was not extensive, but every item was chosen with care. I prefer quality over quantity, and my things matched my taste. My attention to detail, neatness, and style, which I thought was inherent in me, should have surprised her, but Yana seemed to be amazed. "Wow, Shelley, I didn't expect you to have such beautiful clothes," she exclaimed, looking at my neatly organized collection. "And your cosmetics are just at the highest level. I thought it was all too expensive for you," she added, pulling tubes and jars out of my makeup bag with obvious interest. It took almost an hour while Yana was eagerly rummaging through my closet and makeup bag. I realized that maybe she got carried away too much, and finally decided to stop her. "Yana, I think it's time." Those words brought her back to reality. She turned to me with a slight embarrassment on her face. "Oh, I got so carried away, Shelley. You know, I've checked everything out, and to be honest, I don't think you need anything new. Your winter clothes are fine too." I looked at the sweaters and coats scattered around the room, which Yana pulled out of the closet. Inside, I sighed a little. I was a little disappointed that she wasn't going to put everything back together, but I didn't voice it. I just quietly thought that I would have to put everything in order myself later. We continued the conversation, and when I mentioned that I choose makeup products based on the sensitivity of my skin, Yana frowned. "Yes, but you hardly use makeup, right? With such high-quality makeup at your disposal, you should use it more often." I smiled sheepishly. "Well, yes, to be honest, I only wear makeup on special occasions. I just don't see the point in doing this every day, because I almost never go out." Yana was clearly not satisfied with my answer. "This is wrong, Shelley," she said with a clear decision in her voice. "Next time we will definitely try something new. I'll show you some makeup tricks." Dusk was already falling, and finally, Yana was about to leave. I watched her go, but in my heart I couldn't understand why she was so attracted to our house. These frequent visits without my brother have become a real mystery to me. The thought that something might be wrong in their marriage flashed through my mind. Why is she spending so much time with us if her relationship with Oliver has really deteriorated? When Yana left our house after another visit, I finally breathed a sigh of relief, sitting on the edge of the bed. My mind was full of conflicting thoughts. Yana has always remained a mystery to me, and her persistent interference in my life caused two feelings. On the one hand, her actions could be regarded as caring, but on the other hand, they crossed boundaries that I would like to keep personal. My parents enthusiastically welcomed her participation, considering that I was lucky to have such an older sister. They were looking forward to the next makeup lessons and said with a slight reproach that they should not rely too much on Yana. I nodded back, although other feelings were mixed inside me. The truth was, I never asked for her help. My passion for makeup was limited only to those cases when it was really necessary, and I was quite able to cope on my own. It all started with her unexpected visit and her sudden decision to help me look my best. It was as if she saw something in me that needed fixing. This intervention did not arise at my request, and although my parents viewed it as a gesture of kindness, I began to feel how these actions violated my personal space. It always seemed to me that Yana believed she knew what was best for me, although her opinions and assumptions rarely coincided with mine. When she once again left my closet in a mess, I went back to my room and started putting winter clothes back on the shelves. In the process, it dawned on me, one of my favorite sweaters, warm and soft, was missing. I clearly remembered wearing it recently, but it seemed to have disappeared without a trace. This sweater was bought just a year ago and was of special value to me. I always took care of it, carefully folded it and stored it on a special shelf. My head was spinning with thoughts. The last time someone opened my closet was just today, Jan. Of course, I couldn't immediately press charges. Her actions could have been completely innocent. However, the thought that the sweater could disappear in her presence haunted me. I couldn't afford unfounded accusations. There was too much chance that my suspicions would turn out to be wrong. I went to the kitchen to help my parents prepare tea and snacks for Yana before she left. But my mind was still on the sweater. Perhaps I was exaggerating. After all, it was just a sweater. But then, remembering recent events, I decided to take action. If I cannot be sure that my belongings are safe during her visits, I will have to do something to avoid a repeat of such situations. A few weeks after that incident, I installed a hidden camera in my room. I didn't do it because I intended to blame Yana. I just wanted to clarify for myself what was really going on. The camera was small and inconspicuous, hidden between the books on the shelf. And so, as scheduled, Yana showed up at our house again. This time she happily announced, "We're going to have makeup classes today." As soon as she entered my room, her hands immediately reached for my closet. She pulled out a bag of my cosmetics, examined them like an expert, and sat me down in front of a mirror on the carpet. Her hands moved deftly, applying layers of makeup to my face. She explained every step, but I wasn't listening to her anymore. My mind was focused on one thing: to catch this moment when I could confirm or dispel my suspicions. When the makeup was finished, I pretended to go to the bathroom to wash off my makeup, but actually went to my camera. Before she left, I offered her tea and snacks to give myself some time. As soon as Yana left the house, I quickly returned to the computer and downloaded the recording from the camera. My hands were shaking with excitement and worry. I turned on the computer and started looking through the recordings taken during my absence. The video clearly showed Yana rummaging through my closet, taking out makeup items, and then discreetly putting a few things in her bag. It looked like she thought that even if she stole something inconspicuous, like nail polish, which I rarely use, it would take me a while to realize that it wasn't there. When I saw this, I felt a mixture of anxiety and disbelief. Something clenched inside. Is Yana, the person my parents welcomed so much into our house, capable of such a thing? I sighed and, feeling a cold surge of disappointment, transferred the footage to my smartphone. Now I had proof. However, this step did not bring me satisfaction. Now I had to do something, but how and when? My relationship with Yana has always been strained, but this discovery gave the situation a new, bitter connotation. I went to the living room, where I accidentally found my brother. He greeted me with a slight smile, as if he didn't notice my depressed state. "Oh, Shelley. I heard that you took another makeup lesson from Yana today. Please stop relying on her. You make her feel obligated to come here." His words sounded like a punch in the gut. I involuntarily froze in place, trying to figure out how he could interpret the situation like that. I never asked Yana for help. I didn't even hint that I needed her lessons, and her frequent visits were solely her initiative. "Brother, I never asked Yana to come here to do makeup. It was her own idea," I replied, feeling a growing irritation. But instead of showing understanding, he snorted, as if he didn't take my words seriously. "What are you talking about? Yana is just trying to help you collect your thoughts. You're in a complete mess." "Am I in a mess?" My indignation took my breath away. "Yes, I'm doing great on my own." But my brother just shook his head, clearly not going to accept my explanation. "Our parents told me that you spend all day sitting at the computer and playing. Yana is worried about you. She told me that your closet is full of expensive clothes and great cosmetics, despite the fact that you rarely leave the house. Where did you get the money for all this? You're probably wasting our parents' money, and we can't let that happen anymore. These words startled me. My brother made erroneous conclusions based on superficial observations and rumors. He seemed to seriously believe that I was not working, but just playing games. But most importantly, the accusation that I am financially dependent on my parents has left me completely confused. I earn enough by working from home. My words were full of restrained rage. The fact that I don't go to work every day doesn't mean that I don't earn money and don't participate in family life. But his cold gaze showed that he wasn't going to change his mind. We can't leave the house to you anymore. That's why Yana and I decided that we would live here. These words hit me like a bolt from the blue. I looked at my parents, who had just returned home. Usually they were full of support and understanding, but this time their faces expressed something else: anxiety and indecision. I gathered all my willpower to ask them a question. Robert said he was going to live here with Yana. Do you really agree with this? The father, who was always calm and reasonable, answered quietly, almost distantly. If Robert wants to live here, I see no reason to object. Mom, who usually stood by my side, nodded slowly in agreement. Yana is really a wonderful person, she added. Maybe it will be more fun for all of us to live together. When I heard these words, I felt the ground give way under my feet. My heart thudded. It seemed like the whole world had turned upside down. Robert stood behind me with a triumphant expression on his face and said in a raised voice, "Unlike you, who just sits at home, I earn money and I have a wife. No one needs a man like you." Those words pierced me like sharp arrows, but I couldn't keep silent. I'm not messing around. I work from home, and that doesn't mean at all that. Robert continued dismissively. Oh, work from home. That's what pathetic people who have fallen out of society do. This is not much different from neatness. His words cut to the heart. I could feel the gulf between us deepening. My brother apparently did not realize that working from home had become the norm in the modern world. Many companies not only approve of remote work, but also encourage it. People are fully employed, while earning decent money. And although I do not work for a large corporation, this does not detract from my value as a professional. However, for Robert, I remained a loser, a neat stay-at-home, not capable, in his opinion, of anything more. Pack your things and leave, he concluded coldly. At that moment, I looked at my parents. They looked at Robert and me in turn, as if they were considering what to say. And although they did not speak out loud, there was an unwillingness to interfere in their views, as if the situation did not directly concern them. It became clear to me that in this situation they sided with Robert and Yana, perhaps because of their good-natured charm or the prospect of grandchildren that Robert and Yana might have in the future. My parents have always dreamed of grandchildren, and if it comes to choosing between me and the opportunity to become grandparents, they will probably choose grandchildren. I wasn't sure of their true feelings, but one thing became obvious: I had no place in this house anymore. But I wasn't going to show my weakness. I gathered all my inner strength and calmly said, "I'll take my furniture and appliances with me." Robert raised his eyebrows in surprise, as if not believing that a neat sister could afford such things. Jan also looked confused. How could you, being so neat, afford to buy furniture and appliances? Robert asked sarcastically. He immediately turned to his parents. Just look at it. Is it possible to believe that she collected all this herself? Our parents exchanged surprised glances, but, in fact, remained indifferent to my answer. My father just smiled and said, "Well, if Shell is called neat, and you, Robert, earn more, then we can buy new furniture and appliances if necessary." Mom added that she had wanted to buy a new massage chair for a long time, but, as always, I called it a waste of money and refused. They laughed as if they were discussing some harmless little thing, not realizing the seriousness of the situation. I watched this scene with mixed feelings. My parents were always optimistic, They relied on Robert and didn't worry too much about what would happen next. Despite my constant financial contributions, they didn't seem to think about the fact that I was also contributing to the house. I even paid the property taxes for this house. But they probably never told Robert about it. Standing on the stairs, I watched this conversation, simultaneously dialing the numbers of friends to help with the move. Everything was already planned. The next day I had to move the furniture and things to the apartment I had chosen in advance. Robert and Yana continued to discuss something with their parents until late at night. I listened to their conversation, noticing how they tried to find common ground, but encountered difficulties. Meanwhile, I took a short nap, and the next day, full of determination, packed my things in boxes. With the help of friends, the packing was completed quickly and the movers arrived on time. Fortunately, one of my friends owned a transportation company, and since the moving period was slow, it was a real blessing. Furniture and household appliances were being quietly taken out of the house, and I couldn't help but notice the stunned looks of Robert and Yana, who watched the process with genuine interest. "Are we going to your new place?" Shelley asked me, her voice sounding sincere and caring. "I'm sorry that I suddenly asked you to help with the move, don't mention it. I promise to help you create a new writing environment, and it won't be difficult for me." Jan, who had been silent before, suddenly spoke up. "Yes, I am actually a writer, and this person is my editor. I have been planning to leave my parents' house for a long time in order to create ideal conditions for creativity. The thought of someone entering my room without permission and taking my clothes and cosmetics has been depressing me for a long time. I wanted to move out earlier, but while I was paying property taxes, everything seemed impossible." Robert and Yana continued to talk about living here, and I felt grateful that they took care of parents who were prone to gambling. I wasn't going to tell them exactly where my new place was. I couldn't bear to think that the thief who took my things could still come into this house with impunity. Besides, it was registered in my name, and I decided to sell it. I took out my smartphone and turned on a video of Yana stealing my makeup and hiding it in a bag. Yana's face turned pale when she saw the recordings, and my brother and parents, who did not know about her thefts, began to look at her with cold eyes. "Jean, this is not what it seems," Robert said, and his words sounded like he was looking for excuses for her actions. His confusion caused a new wave of anger in me. How could they consider me neat and at the same time not notice that I had expensive things? I thought I was doing her a favor by giving her my makeup, but the fact remained that she stole my stuff. I shrugged and said, "Well, this is a good moment to break all ties." I got into the car my editor was driving and left the family home. Robert and Yana continued to argue with our parents, and I knew that if they started fighting in the street, the neighbors would certainly intervene. I blocked their numbers on my smartphone, wanting to finally distance myself from their problems. A few months later, when I was signing autographs at one of my meetings, a skinny Jean appeared in the crowd with clothes and nail polish, which she stole from me. "I'm sorry, I need help," she said, but I answered coldly, "I'm sorry, but I don't know anyone, and neither do you." I wasn't going to return her clothes or her nail polish. After the old house was sold, I left it all behind. My parents and Robert and Yana started living together, but the financial support they had been receiving from me for so long stopped. Robert found himself in a situation where his income was no longer enough to cover their lavish habits. I heard that my parents started being aggressive towards Yana, and she herself, trying her best to support them, had almost no time to rest. Now that I was no longer involved in their lives, I could focus on my writing in my new home, away from all the chaos and anger that once filled my existence.